Okay, I'm good.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather and work is on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. We have no introduction or approval of late items. However, we will be having our public hearing at 6 p.m. at D'Astaire next door, so we'll be keeping track of the time there. If I can get a motion to adopt the agenda for February 4th. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the agenda? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We have one delegation this evening from Comox Valley Marine Rescue Society on their 5-year extension for moorage and hydro. So I will welcome the group, and I believe it's Rock that'll be presenting to us. So welcome to your group, and you'll just have to turn the mic on till it's red there so online can hear. And welcome to you. We look forward to the presentation.
Thanks for the invitations, Madam the Mayoress, councillors. Thanks for the invitations. I'm joined with Kevin and Ryan. Ryan's the deputy stations for the SAR. I'm the president of Comox Valley Marine Rescue Society. So previously, in my previous life, I used to be station leaders. The station leader couldn't make it tonight, so then Ryan is taking his place there. So if there's any question after, so move to the next slide. Oh, I guess I have the control. So just in and out top.
Bottom. You ever knows how to make it work?
It's not, so it's not just me. There. Okay. So some of the topics. Basically, I don't read the slide maps. It's just to keep me in line with this topic there, because I heard I only got 10 minutes. So okay. I got it. So basically, you know, they've been around. The Coast Guard's auxiliary's been around for a long time. But the RCM SARS, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, came about in the 78s. There was different groups along the coast, and then decided to form the Auxiliary Pacific side. And then in 2012, we changed the name for RCM SAR versus Auxiliary, because there was a perception we were on their payrolls, which we're not, all volunteers. This, as it started, the first generation, Bruce Brown 1 and Bruce Brown 2. So when I started on Bruce Brown 2 there, and then we replaced the vessel, you know, with actually what we have right now online, Cape Lazo, which is the 37-foot jet boat there. It's almost 12 years old now. It's due for refit, and Paul Giles is the ribs. We've got to refit the 5 years ago, $82,000. So we just did some pre-refits on the Cape Lazo and the Campbell River for $65,000. And we have another one coming for the skin around the tubes there, the red tubes, which it looks great now. And it's going to cost $50,000 in June. It's set for June for 2 weeks there. Very powerful boat, very safe. It's self-riding system, so it's safe for the crew and for whatever we do out there. It's good to up to 16-foot wave. Hopefully, I never have to see it. Whoops, wrong side. Okay, so what do we do basically? We've fully active 724, 365 days a year. So basically, always on standby. So this week, unfortunately, the big boat is out of service. We got a little issue, but normally it's extremely rare we go out of service. Our regions, the area, basically in line of sight, and 10 nautical miles. It takes you all the way to Black Creek, Tuxedo, and past the ferry lines on the Bin Sound channel. We get an average, you know, we get several calls, but then suddenly a distress call every year still. So this year's at 25, we have 29 missions. It's over 4,200 hours of volunteer times from the people, volunteers. We participate in a lot of public activities or support in any event on the water, and plus the parades, and basically to also we do educate, some briefing meetings we do to educate people. And we have the Kid Don't Float programs. We just supply all the floating device and the big boards on the Comox Marina. That's one of the things we take care to. I will also take care of Campbell Rivers for Kid Don't Float. Memberships. So basically, we have 45 active members. We have 10 people out of those 45 who actually help to support to do maintenance, all kinds of electronics, IT. So they, if they're not crewed, then sometimes they stand back as a support. So we have 8 coxswains to be, we've got a few in lines to be progressed, 10 advanced, 25 active crew to operate the vessels. We got several trainings we carry. That's our most demanding. As you know, any skills to be to maintain. So the training is the most costly and time consuming. So we have to keep our skills and knowledge at that part there. So that's it's the highest cost to operate is actually training. Some numbers, if you had a chance to review the presentation there, so just to give some ideas how much time, and you see the last one, the remaining hours is minus 7,500 hours. We already overspend the training hours fundings because we put more emphasis on training to make sure people say, they can maintain the skills. So some extra training, say in BAM fields when the individuals become an advanced crew. So we send them to a riot, which is a little bit intense course for 5 days on the water, basically. And in Suk, we have flight simulators to part of some of the training we go to our career. We have MOUs with several entities. The biggest one who's to keep us the most busy is the DFO. And anytime there's a vessels who hit the shore or suspect a leak or whatever, so they ask us to go to investigate or for anything could be a hazard to the environment. So we get a call. We had one for an emergency last week for EMBC there with the ground SAR. Up the river, someone apparently jump in the waters and basically ask us to look at the bottom. So, and then they were doing the upper. So we have different agreements with different entities, including with the law enforcement also. Society, that's where I come in. So basically, we have the stations is up for operations. Society owns the asset, the buildings, and the 2 vessels. My responsibility as a president is to raise money so we could operate, so the station itself could operate. So that's our duty. So basically, with the society owns the asset, and we raise money for operations. That's my role in a nutshell. Any questions so far? Good. So we got the buildings. That building we just did some renovations because it was getting a little bit environmentally unsafe for moisture and everything. So we spent over close to $60,000 repairs last spring on the buildings, 500 square feet there. We have 2 berths, one for Cape Lazo, 37-footer that the towns provide us, and Paul Jaws, the 24-foot vessel. So the 3 basically assets on the marina that we've been supported so far. So basically, the society tonight was asking is if we can have a free mortgage for the next 5 years for our assets. That's the reason I'm here for. Sorry? For the last one? So basically, it's, we have 2 vessels at the mortgage in the slip and at the building there. So what the society is asking, we own the assets, we're asking for free mortgage for the next 5 years. 5 more years for free mortgage.
Just a reminder for the public is not able to engage with the delegations, please.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm just reminding the audience that we're not able to speak to delegations, so.
Oh.
Process. Thank you.
She was asking to clarify my request.
Thank you.
I think that's it. So
Just clarifying process is not a problem. Thank you very much. So we'll look for questions from council, and we see the request there for 5 years and in the same location. And just on behalf of council, I do want to say thank you for the service that you're providing, being a town that's surrounded by the ocean and sea. I know how many hours all of your members put in, and it's quite incredible. So thank you for that service, and we look forward to looking at the request. Around the table for questions from council. there any questions at this time?
Don't make it too easy.
So with that, for the presentation, the request is there, and we would be looking at this at our meeting in 2 weeks as a discussion around the table. So if we do have any questions between now and then, we will follow up with you directly. So thank you for reminding us of what the organization does. We greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the invitations.
And we will be
Appreciate it.
in touch after our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have no further delegations this evening. We have adoption of the minutes from Wednesday, January 21st, 2026 for adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on those meeting minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. On page 13, we have the consent agenda items 1 through 5. If I can get a motion
Moved.
for those. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? And that passes. Items for removal from the consent agenda. And just a reminder, we'll need a seconder for any items to come out. Councillor Mayor.
I'd like to talk about item number 4, please.
Second.
Great. Moved and seconded. The letter from Lisa Dennis. Go ahead.
Great, thanks. So this is about the Comox Valley Water Committee voting structure, and we get these notifications every year, and every year I'm so surprised that we base the voting on consumption and not on like water efficiency per capita or something like that. So I think that the what I would wish to see from I know we have our 2 reps, Councillor Grant and Councillor Kerr, are on this committee, and I would love to see this governance structure updated. Not only like I believe that this was a really common structure to use for a utility many years ago. But I think things have shifted quite a lot, and it's time to update how we allocate the votes. And I also think it's time to think about this as much more than just a utility. This is our watershed. So my wish would be to see this transition into a watershed governance board. So anyway, in this particular instance, Courtney has gained a vote, which gives them 7 votes, and the remaining members have a total of 6 votes. So at the very least, I think that some of the decisions need to be made by a supermajority to kind of offset that balance. Anyway, just some feedback maybe for the CVRD.
Yeah, and it looks like we'll have some more discussion. I know this has come up annually as an issue that we've had, and we have sent feedback in past and haven't got anywhere on it, but we may still want to send further feedback that it's not working as far as our perspective. Councillor Grant has a comment on this.
Yeah, I bring this up every year when it comes to the water board, and it becomes, it's starting to fall on deaf ears because I bring it up so often and they get mad at it. But we have done a service review on this, and unfortunately, because of the way it works, Courtney dominates the vote. And when you get to the end and say we should change it, they go, yeah, no, we're not gonna. And we can't do anything about it. We're stuck, right? There's nowhere to go with it. And so, we've done the service review. I thought we were going to get a change a couple of times, and at the very last minute, Courtney just goes, no, we're going to keep what we got. We're good. So it becomes really difficult to do, but I think that certainly a letter back to them saying we're really unhappy about this. I don't think there's any point in doing another service review. We just did one a while back, but we do need to make the point that this is completely wrong. The other thing is that Courtney isn't metered on their water at all. And so, some of these things, like they could have leaks all over the place and they wouldn't know about it, right? And so the fact that you get more votes for bad behavior of using more water, that's just a really bad principle to work on. So anyway, I think we need a strong letter to follow, I think is necessary for sure.
Okay, if we're going to put that in writing, which is probably something we want to do to bring forward, at least at a leadership level, to try to advocate on, I think we should do a motion on that. But before we get there, we'll go to Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, to me, there's just an uncertainty about why the consumption level has increased and why ours has gone down. There's different possibilities. Maybe our residents are conserving water, and the water meters that we placed in and put in place have been really effective for like that 5% decrease. Or maybe Courtney is less efficient in their water use or has more leakage in their pipes, or the residents and industries are using more. It's also possible that all of that increase that they're seeing is simply due to population growth. So I don't have the answer. I can't say with certainty that it's because of, you know, bad behavior. It could just be because of population growth. So I'd like to see water usage by household or by person, whatever is the most easy metric to use. Like to see residential versus industrial use. Maybe they've had a big industrial increase, use increase. And also what are the comparative loss, like loss of water due to leaks in Comox versus Courtney. So with that information, I think I could, you know, better decide whether to support or not support this going forward.
Do you know, sitting on the CBRD, do they, I think in past years, they provided that commercial and industrial. I thought I had seen those years ago. Have they provided that in the recent years?
We can ask if we've seen it recently. I don't remember those
Years ago
charts.
it was
Yeah.
available. Go to Councillor Grant and then we'll look
Yeah,
for
I mean,
action.
all of that is, you know, there's probably some fairness in all of that, but the reality is you're not going to get those numbers because they're not metered, so they won't know how much it is going to each household, so you won't be able to get that. But the reality is when you have one group at a table that can dominate the board over everybody else included, that's poor governance, and that should not be the case. So, you know, all of that should be done for sure, but the governance model is still wrong.
Okay, so just looking for a motion, it sounds like go to CAO Wall before we look at what type of communications we want to send on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that there might be a way to do both. The industrial users in Courtney will be metered because they will be paying for theirs. So maybe a letter asking for the information and analysis to be done. And once that report is complete, council can take a look at it and then determine if you want to, you can see what information is there. And then if it is the issue that the industrial users or commercial users aren't responsible for the growth, and what it is pointing to is additional or excess consumption due to residential users, you'll have more information and more ammunition to send a letter following that.
And potentially escalate at a leadership level.
Yeah.
Councillor Grant.
Yeah, but you know, and that's good. And I think we should probably do that for sure. But still, the governance model is still wrong, right? It doesn't matter. We still need to address the fact that one group can dominate the entire board, and that should not happen. So I like that idea, and maybe we should start with that. So I'd be willing to make the motion that I forget what you said there, but whatever Jordan said, I'll make that motion.
It sounded like the motion would be to request getting some of their industrial numbers and any information they have on residential.
Yeah, that would be
before we
fine.
send it.
But we need to continue down the road of saying, look, it's not fair that you have all that power at that table.
Mm-hmm. And the metrics are wrong on overuse. I think Councillor Mayer had a comment, and then we'll go to Councillor Blacklock.
I just want to offer, like, you know, creating different types of decisions that require supermajority would be an easy way to adjust the governance to make up for that differential. And if they want to keep the majority for certain utility kind of conversations based on consumption, then that's fine. But I think that, you know, they need to delineate the decision types. I don't know if there will be an appetite at this table to ask for it, but I would love to request a transition plan to a watershed governance from utility. And that's a bigger piece of work, but I think it's one that's actually really, really important for the whole valley.
Yeah, I think those would probably be separated. So you're welcome to motion once we deal with the first part of asking for some of those rates, residential and industrial, which I believe has been motioned but not seconded yet. So I'll second that quickly just to get that on the table. And then we have Councillor Blacklock for discussion.
Well, I'm just curious, you know, in this voting structure, I see no votes for our partners at KFN, and they are on the water system. But my question to our committee members, our water commission members, is what are the major decisions coming down in the next sort of let's say next 5 years? I mean, what is it that really, that this vote's going to matter, that that the, I mean, we got South Water expansion, we got, you know, the Mount Washington Fire Department, we got increased uses at Mount Washington proposed. What else is there coming down the road?
That could possibly be included as one of the questions as far as what does the medium term history look like? That's
Yeah,
probably
just
a-
like, how much is this gonna matter? Like, we always worry about Courtney having the ability to overrule us on decisions that affect us. And I really think, you know, there's only one lake here. The water's all coming from the same place. So I do like Councilor Mayor's idea that we start focusing on the source of the water, which is, and I think we've done a good job with that. As a valley, I'd commend the Water Commission for doing the hard work to get that treatment plant built. It was not easy. It was not cheap. But now you notice we're not boiling our water, and we have certainty going forward. So what else is coming is my only question.
I think we can add that as a friendly addition as a third option. It's not a major change. Okay, so the motion is on the table to send a letter about some of those residential industrial numbers and what the future looks like for that with some of those examples. COL, do you have a comment before we vote?
Yeah, I was just going to provide a bit of an answer to Councillor Blacklock's question. It's likely that there's not any other major projects, but where this could come to be important is the cost allocations for buying into the system will be determined initially at the committee level. And so you can shift around the costs to jurisdictions. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying that it would happen, but you can get into debates. And if one jurisdiction is controlling and looking to expand the water system, you can do that by making the buy-in very low and shifting the cost to users. And some of that debate is taking place when you're looking at the south, the expansion on the south is, we saw that in the DCC freeze that the regional district was wanting to do. And Comox and Courtney in this case have asked additional questions, but you can potentially have the situation where what the CVRD was proposing, which was to freeze the DCC rates at previous levels forever, even though the cost to implement it is the same, that shifts that implementation and infrastructure cost to Comox and Courtney residents. There could come a time in the future where that could happen to Comox if Courtney is looking for the expansion and they dominate the committee. Again, I don't know if that's likely. I don't know if that would happen, but that is a risk moving into the future on a committee dominated by one jurisdiction.
And we can address that potentially once the first letter goes back and we have some response there. So, okay, so we have the motion on the floor to send those questions. There's 3 questions over to the Water Committee on their voting structure. Are there any further questions or comments before we vote on that? Okay, all those in favor of having a letter penned? Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimously. So we'll have that drafted up and sent over. Are there any other items from 1 through 5 from the consent agenda for discussion? Okay, we're moving on to unfinished business. We have the Comox Valley Community Broadcasting Society seeking support for their CRTC application that was on January 21st, 2026. Are there any follow-up discussions from that? I believe it was a presentation. Or we can take no action if there's no follow-up. Councillor Mayor.
Do we need a motion to write the letter?
We would, yes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so that has been moved and seconded. Does anyone want to speak to that? No, I was absent, so I don't have compliment. All those in favor of sending the letter? Opposed? I'm just going to do that vote again. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. So that letter of support will be sent over to the Broadcasting Society. There are no special reports this evening. We are on page 24 under bylaw adoptions. We have amenity cost charges bylaw number 2052 for adoption.
So
Councillor
I
Grant.
would like to motion that we take this in the next item and defer them for a month so that we can have, there's a group of developers and finance guys that have been to the city of Courtenay. And they're talking to them about their ACCs and their DCCs and the fact that they're stifling the ability to build in today's time. So I would like to see if we could get that group to come to see us next week. I think we have a very short agenda next week. And just sit down and have a chat about this and see what we could do or if we have to do anything with it. So I would make the motion that we defer these next two items and for a month. That would give us time to have that meeting and then have some discussion after and then move forward.
Okay, so just to be clear, it would be a motion for both 2052 and 2053, the
Correct.
ACCs and DCCs to be deferred by 1 month.
Correct.
Okay, is there a seconder of that motion?
Sorry.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded for discussion. Councillor Blacklock and then Councillor Kerr.
I would also note that the development community, along with those at the city of Courtenay, have been we are scheduled for a February 17th community open forum and education session around this very same topic, DCCs and ACCs. So again, it would be prudent for us to not move forward with a vote today until we get clarity around what our neighbors are doing. Certainly with these kind of charges and adding lists of amenities that we want paid for by development, the key thing in considering the rates is, will the developments happen? I mean, if you can have all the amenity cost charges you want, say for a new pool or for a new rec center, a new fire hall, if nobody builds anything, the contributions to the amenities are zero. So we need to come up with a way that still incentivizes actual buildings to be constructed. So I would support the motion to defer for a month.
Okay, thank you. We have Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, good points, Councillor Blacklock. I'm okay with deferral as well to get more information. Just a question for staff. Is there any urgency in us passing this tonight? Thanks.
Over to CAO Wall for comment on timing.
There's no urgency. What I can say is that regardless of what happens in the future, the DCC and ACC rates are going up. So the risk is just the longer you delay, the more projects may not have that higher rate. So that's it.
Yeah. And so that's why I'd like to get this moving quickly and a month is not a long time down the road. I don't want to defer it for months and months, but if we could get a month out of this and move it along and see what we can do, that would be great.
Okay, and we happen to have some time in our meeting next week that we were looking to have, so that potentially could work time-wise. We'll take a look. Any questions or comments around the table on deferral of this would be for both bylaw 2052 and 2053 amenity cost charges and development cost charges. Councillor Haslett.
Does the motion need to include having a letter sent to this group to have them show up for our next meeting?
I think that's inferred. Yeah, probably. Thank you. Councillor Mayor.
It's just a question for staff. I thought I remembered something in the provincial guidelines that these could not hinder development, like that was part of what the province, the scaffolding the province had tried to put in for these. Can you speak to that at all?
So as part of the requirement, in order to get your ACCs approved by the province, you needed to do an economic impact study, which was completed, and it showed the impact the DCCs would have. That was submitted to council in a previous report. That economic analysis was submitted to the province. We do have approval from the province to move forward. So the ACC rates and DCC rates that we have in this proposed bylaw meet the provincial requirements in order to make sure that they do not unduly hinder development. Now, that is a different standard than council may want to apply. So I'm not saying that council can't take a look at this or wait. I'm just saying that the rates as we have proposed are acceptable to the province.
I haven't heard too much opposition to giving it that 30 days, which we have in our timeline. So we'll just move to the vote on bylaw number 2052 and 2053 being deferred for approximately a month until there's a little bit more consultation. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed? And that passes unanimously, and we'll take a look at the potential of that February 11th date.
Sorry, we would also, if council wants to invite a group to meet in the committee, not as a delegation, but as a participant, yeah, it would be great to get that as a motion right now.
Okay, I would move that.
Okay, Councillor Grant and Councillor Hazlett's suggestion. Thank you. Any questions or comments on having that group invited to the strategic council meeting on February 11th? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Under new business, we have council correspondence policy CCL 006.04 from the January 26th report to be approved. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the correspondence policy? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. On page 49, we have the parcel tax review panel that council set the parcel tax review panel for Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 at 4:55 p.m. at the Comox Council Chambers. Moved and seconded. Just a reminder to use your mics if possible for those online. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. There are no notices of motion. And on page 52 under correspondence, we have a letter from Sheridan Barnett, Deputy CAO, Comox First Nation, looking for a letter of support for their Comox Treaty dated January 29th. I will move that.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the letter of support for Comox First Nations? And I will say and further that Comox approved the letter providing support to Premier David Eby and the Mirror Minister. Councillor Blacklock.
Could we also in that letter just add a sentence or a paragraph about our preference, and I believe KFN's preference for what we heard last week at the CVRD, that the treaty moved to expedite ratification in 2028, not 2029?
I would say that would work as long as we get their approval on that before adding that. But if it came
I
up
know
with
we
the
had
session-
heard that, it's fiscal 28, 29, so that's, the fiscal year. But the sooner they move to enactment, the sooner we can have certainty around a lot of issues with respect to treaty lands.
Are you okay with it being just obviously with their approval? Just
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Draft.
We could just word it to say that we encourage the province to move forward on the desired timelines of KFN.
Perfect. Sure. That would solve that problem. Thank you. Okay, that has been moved and seconded, and that comment has been noted by staff for that letter to have the third edition there. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Thank you. And we have the second letter on page 53 from Chief of Comox First Nation, Nicole Rempel, supporting the additional request for reserve application to the province, and further that we provide the letter of support for the addition to reserve for Piercy Road parcel to be submitted to the Government of Canada. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this second letter of support? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Thank you. There are no late items, so we will do reports from councillors, starting with Councillor Blacklock.
I have nothing to report this week.
Okay, we'll go Councillor Swift. Councillor Hazlitt.
Thank you. I attended the a regular board meeting at the Philberg, and they're getting all geared up for their Easter event, which is April 4th. And they've got lots of sponsors and things, so they're very, very pleased with the community support there. And just as a reminder, if you know anybody who's cleaning out their house, they're welcome to take donations. So, and that's my report.
Thanks, Councillor Hazlitt.
There's still ongoing strategic planning with the Stair House, as well as Nautical meeting last week, which was great. We're moving forward at a great speed, and there's a potential that we've got some board members to fill some seats. So.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll go Councillor Kerr. down the table.
Thank you. Yeah, really exciting. We're way ahead on nautical days planning this year, which is great. Thanks, Committee Chair Haslett. Just one thing, Councillor Grant and I spent a good 6.5 hours in budget meetings on Monday at the CBRD. And one of the shocking things, just maybe to make council aware and also the public, is the projected increase in debt at the CBRD because of some very large projects that are in the pipe. So right now, the current debt servicing or debt load right now at the CBRD is about 150 million. And in the next 5 years, it's expected to go up to 350 million. There's a $100 million sewer upgrade of the sewer plant, not the current $100 million project that has been almost finished, but a new project to upgrade the plant because of the increase in population. There's a $50 million potential hockey rink, and yeah, I've Councillor Blacklock can't contain himself for this news. So just something to think about, the regional kind of major infrastructure projects, in addition to we were talking about water, the water pipe upgrades that are going to be needed as part of the asset management project. So just like, you know, this area is growing, and as such, huge infrastructure projects are coming down the pipe, no pun intended. So just something for us to think about in terms of tax rates, our own asset management, and yeah, I just want to keep council informed of that.
Yeah, I was at that same meeting. I think I remember it. It was long and boring, I have to tell you. But yeah, we did that, and we also had a regional parks meeting where we kind of narrowed it down to a smaller group. So, pardon me? Yeah, so, anyway, whoops, that was in camera. So I didn't say that. Sorry, I take it all back, but we had the meeting.
Councillor Mayor.
I attended a CAMS board meeting, the museum board meeting, a food policy council meeting, the regional parks and trails meeting, and I'm very happy to be the vice chair again this year for that committee, which is great. And then nobody mentioned the Treaty Lands update that we were all at, where I think sports fields were also part of the conversation, although I didn't stay for that part. Yeah, so it's a busy couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the updates. I just want to say thank you to everyone who did attend the 80th anniversary back in mid-January. I think that was since this last meeting. I think it was a great success. We heard some really nice stories from the community about their experiences living or being new residents, long-term residents in Comox. So thank you so much to Cami and Corrine and all the staff. Chief Schreiner spoke, and everyone that attended that event. I think it was a great success, and it was a really fun celebratory evening. So thank you for that. CEO Wall and I attended an RCMP meeting down in North Cowichan today, just doing a tour of their new RCMP building, which came in, I believe, at about 53 million, a very large hub building that has many of the different services from highway patrol to their major crimes, and hundreds of people in one large building. We went down with our inspector Mercer just to show the difference of how far behind we are at our RCMP station, and how much they really need us to be focusing on that as a region. So adding on what Councillor Kerr and Grant were saying at the CBRD, the RCMP facilities are absolutely going to need to be looked at in the next, I'd say 5 years, but really sooner. So that was an interesting eye-opening tour of the difference. Same population, same number of cases, but extremely different capital funding that they've had down there. So we were learning about that today, which was very informing. That is it for my report. So we will have no media questions. Are there any questions from the public this evening? Okay, so with that, we will move for adjournment at 5:43. All those in favor? And we will see anyone who is interested at the public hearing starting in about 15 minutes across the way at D'Astaire. Thank you so much to everyone for attending.